Welcome to Taste of Florida Tropics. Thanks for joining us again. Hope you haven't missed any of our series of our interesting Florida tropical talks. And today we have a wonderful guest, a great member of the Tropical Fruit Grower Association of South Florida. He's also a major contributor to the Florida industry, Florida Grove industry. We have Mr. Charlie Laub with us here today. Hi, Charlie. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming out to talk to the community and share a little bit about your story. Today we're going to be talking about a real great tropical fruit that Charlie Laub here grows. It is called the carambola. We're going to be talking about two, and another unusual, which is the monstera. But first of all, Charlie, let's talk a little bit about yourself. Give me a little bit about your background, your little history. How did you get started in this industry?
Well, I was born and raised on a farm up north, so family's been farming for years, and I didn't like the cold weather, so I decided to come to Florida. And went to the University of Florida and then came to South Florida to go to work at the time, back in the late 60s, for one of the largest lime and avocado packers here. And gradually bought some acreage myself and grows.
Started planting
our own stuff.
Yeah. And you started with what types of fruit? All tropicals? Have you always been?
No, I started in avocado grove originally, and in basically the late 70s and early 80s, the market on avocados was a little tough, and we were having a hard time, so we were looking for other things to plant, and that's when I came across the carambolas and started planting carambolas. So we started taking out the avocado trees and putting in carambolas.
And currently now, how much carambola acreage do you have?
I have about 4 acres of carambolas, but I pack for a lot of other growers, and one of basically the second largest packer of carambolas in Dade County, and well, in fact in the country, because the only place carambolas are raised are in Florida, because it's a very tropical fruit.
And mainly in the Homestead Redland area, would you say, or all Florida?
No, basically the Homestead area is where it really started. Now there's a little bit in around Fort Myers, Pine Island, and a little bit up along the east coast towards Palm Beach. But the bulk of it is between Pine Island and here. And
I assume because of our subtropical weather, this is just very conducive for this type of fruit to
yeah,
be
this
grown?
is because it's warm and we get a lot of rainfall here. It's not the absolute ideal conditions, but it does do very well here.
Yeah. Today, the star fruit, or carambola, as it's also referred, we have some here with us today, and they call it the star because once you cut it, you get a nice star. Can you tell us some of the qualities of this fruit, or some of the difficulties in packing that you've encountered during the years?
Well, the biggest difficulty is in the harvesting and packing, because it's a very fragile piece of fruit. You have these ribs that are right along here that bruise extremely easily.
I hear that it's almost like handling an egg. That's how delicate you have to...
Pretty much, because they hang from the tree like this, and what you don't want to do is have your picker walk up and grab it that way. Because what he automatically does is put his fingerprints and bruises it there. So you teach your pickers to pick it like that.
Okay.
And in a packing house, you pick it in small containers so that you don't have a lot of weight and they're bouncing or anything else.
They're not all
bruising.
just clumped in like you would throw an avocado or something like that.
Actually, you teach your pickers to put them in the box, one on top of the other, gently. Otherwise, as I say, the ribs bruise very easily. And then we place it in almost like an eggshell type carton with dividers in it and pads on the bottom and the top to keep from bruising. To protect it as much from bruising as we possibly can.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it takes a beating, just trying to ship it to where it needs to go. Where does this fruit? Where do you guys ship to? What areas?
We pretty much ship all over the United States. Not very much to the West Coast, but Midwest and all up and down the East Coast. It gets into, I'd say the majority of it is in chain stores. So the average person can usually, most cases during the season, find it.
And how is this season actually?
Well, the season usually is you'll start getting some fruit in June, sometimes late May.
Yeah, that's why it's a little green. I mean, this is still a little early right now.
It's early.
Right?
Well, this is an unusual year this year because it's the crop is actually probably a month later more this year. But we have 2 peaks in the crop, and depending from year to year, but they'll vary somewhat, but it's usually August, September, and then another peak in December, January, when we have a big supply of fruit, and that's usually when we get our chain stores to go on ads and things like that. The rest, with the stuff that's here in Dade County and some of being raised in Pine Island, we're close to year-round, but not quite.
Okay, that's interesting. I did happen to see some of this carambola in my local supermarket. However, sometimes I don't get that nice size and all that color that I want. I mean, why is that, Charlie?
Well, well, we have a couple different philosophies in the industry, and some think that it's supposed to be green and picked green and shipped green. It tends to probably bruise less when you do that, but that gives you a very tart piece of fruit, and it's not really the ideal for fruit. But if you find that that's the type of fruit that you have in your supermarket, the best thing to do is take it home, leave it sit, room temperature, and it'll start turning the orange color. And that's what you really want, is the more yellowish orange color, and it gives you a little bit sweeter.
Okay, because some people kind of assume that this fruit with a tarty taste, or kind of like, not a sweet taste, and it really is a nice, sweet, refreshing, crisp type fruit.
Well, it's if you leave it get ripe, it's a nice piece of fruit. It's got a good color, and it has some sweetness, but it's still got always a little bit of tang to it.
Yeah, I know that if we trim, a tip that I was given is
what you do in any fruit, any carambola, is that you take and trim this little edge.
It's kind of like a waxy exterior, right?
Well, the exterior is a little waxy, but this is usually the tartest part of the fruit. And you want to go around and trim that all off. You still get the same effect of having
the
a star. You've just taken a little bit off the edge, and that's usually the most bitter part of the fruit is that edge.
Okay, and then you have your nice sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet carambola.
Yeah.
Now there are 2 different types of varieties, or?
Well, there's quite a few different varieties, but there's a tart and a sweet.
And a sweet.
When the industry first started planting carambolas, they planted, the only thing around and available that anybody knew about was a tart variety that was around. And there was a lot of it shipped, but everybody was complaining about it because you really couldn't let it tree ripen, because you couldn't ship it anywhere if you did. So as a result, it was somewhat green, approximately like this fruit, some of this fruit is, and it's very tart. I mean, it makes you pucker. But truly a tart variety, if you leave it on the tree and let it fully ripen on the tree, has a really good flavor to it. But there was some seeds brought back from Southeast Asia by a man and were planted here. And out of those seeds became the major variety that we have planted now, which is the Arkin, and it's a sweet variety. And you can, as you can see, you can pick it with this color.
This is the Arkin here.
This is the Arkin, and you can pick it with this color. It ships well, it holds up, and it tastes a lot sweeter.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people like, and that type of this Arkin type can be used in a lot more, I would assume, than the bitter kind, or in different types of recipes, or
Well, yeah, and nobody really anymore raises the tarts. I mean, unless somebody has one in their backyard or something like that. The few commercial trees that were here in the very beginning, which was back in the late 70s, have been taken out, because once the Arkin came, nobody really wanted it.
Do it with that tart one.
Yeah,
You don't want that.
Yeah.
Excellent. And another thing, like raising this, is this a difficult fruit to raise? I mean, is there a lot of care and attention that we need, a lot of fertilizing and all this stuff, or is this pretty much?
No, it's pretty labor intensive.
Nothing is that easy, right?
No, not at all.
I want to find the fruit that you just leave it there and it goes on by itself.
Well, we'll get to that. But the carambola requires a lot of care. You need to try and get fruit the object is just trying to get fruit in off of the peak seasons, because that's when you will get a better return on your money for your fruit. And it takes a lot of trimming and care with the tree to do that. The tree itself is probably one of the few fruit trees that acts more like a vegetable than it does a tree, because it requires a tremendous amount of water and a tremendous amount of fertilizer and a lot of iron and micronutrients to produce a good healthy tree and to produce any quantity of fruit. And again, it's because we may have close to the ideal weather conditions in South Dade, but we don't have the ideal soil conditions here because it's rockland. Kind
of rocky, yeah, I understand. And does the carambola have any pest that, or disease that it's?
No, really. Our biggest pest is the birds and snails. I mean, a bird will take one nip out of the piece of fruit with its beak and realize it's tart and goes on to the next, and that ruins it for being sold at that point. You know, once it's got a little blemish on it, we probably only pack about maybe 50 to 60% of the fruit that's produced on a tree. It's quality good enough to ship.
Be able to.
It isn't either bruised or scarred from rubbing on a limb or have a snail or bird peck or something like that. So where the trees produce a tremendous amount of volume, we still only ship probably about 50% of that.
Now, could you put some of those nets, I mean, to keep those birds out? I know some growers, they put like maybe nets around or some type of protection to avoid just that.
Well,
not like a boomerang or something to hit those birds. I don't know what
they don't move.
I mean, I don't know what we could do.
I've shot at them enough times. They move 6 inches, and even when you knock the feathers off, that's all they do. It's the blackbirds and the starlings.
They come back.
Yeah, that really bother us. One of my growers has what we call a roof on top of her grove, the purpose of it really being to cut down on the wind. And all our groves are either through trees that we've raised other than the carambola trees, or one grower has bamboo. A lot of us have screens and poles to protect the grove from wind, because the wind will just tear the fruit up and you won't get any production. I mean, you'll get production, but it won't be anything that's packable because it bruises so easy getting banged around. But she's got a top on her grove, and the birds just found out how to get in. Now they stay there because it's there's a lot of nice water and a lot of nice fruit to eat.
Smart birds
smart
here.
Birds, yes.
Oh my God. Okay, well, and you said it takes approximately, it's year-round, almost year-round.
Pretty close now at this point, yeah.
Well, this is very interesting information. Charlie, we're going to take a small break, and please don't go away. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the carambola, and we're also going to be talking about another fruit that Charlie grows, which is the monstera. Please stay back. Come back.
AIDS has killed nearly 6 million children worldwide. That's more than every child in every preschool, grade school, and high school in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, Atlanta, and Miami combined. The time to do something is now. The place is apathyisLethal.org.
Hi, welcome back to Taste of Florida Tropics. My name is Sonia Vaquero, and today we're talking about carambola, Florida-grown carambola. And we're here with Charlie Laub, who is the second largest picker and packer here in the Redland Homestead area. So, Charlie, we were talking a little bit about the carambola, all the qualities that it has. Now, another thing that we did, the tropical fruit growers, they did a research analysis on this fruit, and I know that a lot of you growers were quite surprised, pleasantly surprised, I would say, to find out what were some of the results on this fruit.
Yeah, we knew that the carambola was fairly high in vitamin C, but the antioxidant part was a real surprise to us.
And antioxidants is, that's the latest and the greatest, and that's the cool word. And I know it's high up there with the blueberries and those type of fruits, which are, the god of all fruits. So actually, from all the Florida tropicals, the red guava is the highest, and then is the carambola. And for a fruit who doesn't really have all that color, because you see the red guava has that deep red color, the blueberry that deep blue color, and for a fruit who doesn't have, those type of characteristics, it is loaded. It's amazing. And then also, for us weight-conscious people, and the carbs and the sugars and all that stuff, very low calories, 33 calories on a 4-inch fruit, and low carbs, 8.8 grams, which is like nothing, and has some fiber in there for you. So it's a great fruit all the way around,
Well, it tastes very good. It's healthy for you, and there's a lot of uses for it. It can be used in a lot of things.
Yeah, I love to put one of these in my smoothies. It gives it a wonderful taste.
Well, that, or if you're having a nice dinner party and you put the glass of water out, instead of putting a slice of lemon on it, put a slice of carambola on it.
Put a little slice of carambola. That's a cute touch.
And the kids, they really love it. When we've been doing in-store demos, which we've done in the industry some, the reaction from the kids is really great. They really love the fruit. My son, when he was little, when we were picking in the groves, he used to come in and he'd grab a piece of fruit and he'd eat it right down to his hand.
Now, did you tell him very gently, or he's just...
Oh, no, he'd just grab it. All he was interested in was eating.
Right?
He'd grab it, eat down to his hand. Wouldn't eat the whole thing, just eat down to where he held it. Then he'd throw that on the ground and go grab another one,
Oh,
so you'd have to watch him real close, because he could go through a lot of carambolas real quick if he didn't watch it. But they love it. The kids really, really love it. And it's got a lot of uses. I mean, it can be...
I know that, like you said, for garnishes, but not only for garnishes. I mean, our chefs that we work with, Chef Alan Susser, and we have a lot of other chefs, Johnny V and Dewey LaSalsa from North 110. They have worked so much with these types of fruits in all their main dishes, not desserts and not just drinks and things like that, but also in meat dishes and fish dishes and salsas. I mean, it's like endless what you can do when you can work with this,
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with it.
And it's not difficult. It's not difficult to use, and
it's very easy to prepare. You don't have it. All you got to do is take the ribs off and slice it or dice it.
Down. Exactly. This week we had a fiesta, and one of our chefs simply put the carambola star on the bottom, and he put a nice little crab salad on top. It looked gorgeous, it looks really chic and everything, and it's very simple. So that's so interesting and great for you health-conscious people out there. This is the type of fruit to get, to try to consume. I wanted to talk a little bit about hurricanes. Being in South Florida, we are so susceptible to these types of tropical storms and all this, terrible weather. I know that you went through a major hurricane, with Andrew, and that probably, was devastating, I'm sure. And trying to rebuild yourself and things. What could you offer, another grower, another packer, any advice, from the learning curve?
Other than run?
And run and sit down and cry.
Yeah, well, that too. Afterwards you're crying. But,
yeah.
There's really not a lot you can do.
These type of trees, is there anything you can do to protect your trees, to protect your grove or your structures?
The structures, you have to really kind of make a decision. The structures that we have around most of our groves are screen structures like a shade house. almost, except it's up higher and crisscrossed through the grove to cut down on the wind. With Andrew, a couple different things happened depending upon how people's structures were put up or what method they used and everything. With mine, the screen never came off the cables because the cables were laced through the screen, but all the poles broke. A friend of mine, the cable went through hooks and the screen came off the hooks. It didn't knock the poles down, but the screens came off, wrapped around the trees and yanked some of the trees out and everything. So the theory is, well, do you take all the effort and take the screen down, and it's just a judgment and a decision whether you make it or not, because it's a lot of work to do that, to take them down and put them back up.
Yeah.
Or do you just let it blow out and have to
hopefully
redo
have
it?
good insurance.
Well, no, you don't have insurance for that.
You don't have insurance for that.
You don't have
dear.
insurance for that. No, you have to put them back up. But the tree itself, because it's a fairly willowy tree, and the leaves are very small, we really didn't have that many trees that actually came out of the ground as a lot of other tree crops did.
Okay.
We had a lot of them leaning, but it was a matter of just standing them back up. I mean, the one thing we did, we had fruit on the trees, and I think some of us that managed to have a little bit of help or time picked as much as we could and set it somewhere. Hopefully it was going to be all right. I mean, I actually picked about 6 bins of fruit and set them on a flatbed truck and part of the open field at the house and said, well, if it makes it, it makes it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And basically it made it through. So we delivered them to a packing house about 3 days later.
Great.
But no, there's not a lot you can do. You just have to weather it out.
Yeah, cross our fingers and hope
it
that doesn't
hit
happen
you.
again.
Yeah.
I know. I know that is it's a terrible thing, and I know you guys have such tough jobs. I mean, being a grower is a tough job. Just, walking outside in this heat, it's brutal. And these growers are out there all day, in this heat, under the sun, picking with the bugs and everything else, and mosquitoes, and it's not a luxurious job. So we appreciate you doing it. Somebody's got to do it. So we appreciate you doing it so we can have our wonderful fruit in Publix and in our supermarkets and Winn-Dixie's and wherever it is that we go. So so I want you to talk to me a little bit about your Monstera, this unusual, like a Jolly Green Giant
something like
type
that.
of fruit.
I actually call it a Monstera deliosa, which we usually say is delicious monster.
Delicious monster.
Yeah, but you were talking earlier about planting something, not have to worry about it. Well, it's...
Yeah. Is this the one, the easy one that you don't even have
close.
to look at, don't worry?
Well, we got to look at it once in a while, but it's close. It fruits, and it takes about, from the time it actually blooms and sets fruit, it takes a year before you can pick it.
Oh, that's pretty quick. Because I know there's some fruits that it takes 5-10 years for, if you plant from a seed.
Well, this you plant from a cutting from the, it's a vine actually, it's like a philodendron type vine.
Okay.
It produces fruit like this. And actually in some instances they're grown for an indoor house plant, but they won't put fruit on.
Okay.
They need sun to put fruit on. We've kind of found that out the hard way. And when we made large plantings of blocks, we get fruit all around the outside, but nothing in the middle because it shades itself out.
So it does need that sun.
Yeah, it needs sun to actually produce fruit. But you pick the fruit. Then again, these are within about another couple weeks of being ready.
Yeah, this is not ripe right now.
This is not. Well, it's not even ready yet. When you see it pointed like this, it is not quite ready. You want to start to round out at the top. I think this one's a little more rounded. But you want it rounded out at the top, nice size, and big fruit, and that's when we pick it. And it ripens, depending upon how late or early in the season it is. It may take anywhere from a few days to 4 or 5 days, but when it ripens gradually. And these little squares that you see here will kind of swell up a little bit, and you can take a finger and knock them off. But it'll only do it gradually, maybe this much the first day that it starts ripening, and then maybe a little more the next day. But you only eat the fruit.
Comes off?
The fruit where this has come off, because if you were
Don't
to take
force
this stuff,
the others
if you force it and eat it, it produces like a crystallines in it. It'll get caught in your throat and give you a very scratchy throat.
Now, believe me, listeners, listen to this because
Do
I learned the
not.
hard way. It's so good, and I wanted to keep eating. And then I had those little, like, crystals
crystals.
in my... I mean,
it'll
it's
really
not
scratch your throat.
It's not going to kill you or anything like that.
Very irritable and
but
it hurts.
It is annoying.
Yes, it's very irritable and it hurts. But it's similar, basically, I always say, taste to a cross between a banana and a pineapple.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a very heady, very strong flavor. You really, a lot of people say, well, I want to wait till the whole thing ripens because I need a lot of it. Well, you usually don't in anything you do need a lot of it because it is so strong.
Yeah.
But
you can really work with a little in your recipe and it's going to give you
what if you want the whole thing to ripen, usually what we do is once it starts ripening, we'll just put it in a Ziploc bag so the bugs and stuff don't get at it and let it all ripen. And you pull it out and flake everything off, or if it hasn't already fallen off, and then just... It's got a central core down the middle, and you just take a fork or a spoon and just pop off the fruit off the central core. But it's very, very good and very delicious. There's not a lot of them raised in South Florida, but it came originally from Central America. And in fact, most of the people in Central America, they've seen it, but they never eat it. Yeah, they probably
just walk by and they
never eat it.
You could eat this thing.
Yeah. I have Mexicans that work for me, and we've been raising this for 20-some years or more, and they said, "Oh, we got that where I came from,"
but we never ate it.
Now the number twos disappear all the time because they're taking them with them because they love it. Once they found out what it was.
Very, very interesting. That is a good fruit. Also, as well in recipes and things like that.
Yeah. Well, we had some at what was it, the Lowe's, where
at the Lowe's
that they had, which is he used razor clams and Monstera with it, mixed it in an hors d'oeuvre dish that he had. It was excellent, because it's a very strong flavor, so it adds to any dish that you want to use it in, and you can make smoothies with it and other things with it.
And this, you said you were one of the growers.
There's only two of us that really grow it commercially. There's a lot of it planned around.
And you ship nationally?
Yeah, we ship. We can't supply
all the demand
for it by far, because anytime anybody tastes it, they want some of it.
Fall in love with
it's a problem. There's a lot of people have it in their backyards, and some know what it is, some don't. But there's a fair amount.
Good.
Right around like that.
Well, excellent. Well, now you know. If you see this growing in your backyard or one of your neighbors and they don't know what it is and they haven't tasted it, don't tell them. Just get the fruit and keep that treat for yourself. If not, look for it in your local groceries. Also the carambola. Charlie, I want to thank you so much for coming here and talking to us about this. This has been so interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you to come back to taste the Florida tropics. Thank you. Bye-bye.